Okay, so for the kids at home, unfortunately, who can't be here, here's what the lesson's all about. So today's date is 1 Enero. Enero, is that right? Juana? Enero. Am I saying January right? Enero.
Enero.
Enero. Thank you. Gracias. Enero. All right. Enero. Gracias. So, here's what we learned. If you do not have a pair of opposites, in fact, if you look at this example, you do not have a pair of opposites. So, guys, you got to listen. So, you got to have another formula. So, we learned about the law of cosines. So, the law of cosines will help us find this opposite side, and it goes like this. Opposite squared is equal to adjacent squared plus the other adjacent squared. Subtract 2, that's part of the formula, 2 is always there, subtract 2 times the adjacent times the cosine of the angle. Law of cosines, cosine. So then, since you got opposite squared, it takes 2 steps, you just take the square root of what you got here. So we tried this problem in class, and we went and we typed it in. We went 10 squared, that's my adjacent, plus 11 squared, that's my other adjacent, minus 2, times my 10, that's my adjacent, times my 11, that's my adjacent, times cosine of my angle. I put all of that in my calculator. One big, long formula. Here it is. I put it all in my calculator all the way through. Got an answer. But then the second step is to take the square root of it, and I got 13.9. Now, we'll look at this formula tomorrow. So for today, what we want to do in our first example, we're only going to do this one part. Let's use this formula. So right at the bat, if I take a look at this, I do not have a pair of opposites. There's no opposites. Everybody agree? Thumbs up. So I have to use the law of cosines. Well, that's what our notes are. We have to use the law of cosines. So my law of cosines says this. My opposite squared. Well, here's my angle. This is, let's call it little a. That's my opposite, right? So my opposite squared is equal to my adjacent. So this is one of my adjacent sides. Plus my other adjacent. So this is my other adjacent side. So let's use this formula to solve for this side. So it says opposite squared. So I'm going to go a squared, right? Because that's the name of the opposite side, right? Call it a squared. Equals my adjacent squared. Well, that's 10. Plus my other adjacent squared, which is 11. Minus 2. 2's in the formula. Times my adjacent, which is my 10. Times my other adjacent, which is 11. Times the cosine, law of cosines, cosine, not sine, cosine of my angle, okay? Well, that's a pretty big formula, so I'm just going to plug that into my calculator, right? I'm just going to go through and just do it. I'm going to go through and just type it in. I'm just going to go, okay, 10 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 10 times 11 times the cosine of 50 degrees. Got it all in my calculator, one big long string of numbers. Enter. And I get about 79. So I got a squared is equal to a 79.56. But that's a squared, right? That's a squared. That's not a. It's a squared. Well, I'm going to have to take the square root to get a. So square root of that answer, and I get about 8.9. Now 8.9, that could be 8.9. All right, now we have a pair of opposites. So this is a long formula. You guys agree? It works. But if I have a pair of opposites, let's go back to the law of sines because it's easier. You guys agree? Once I have a pair of opposites, then the law of sines is easier. Okay? So now we could find angle B or angle C. It does not matter. Angel, what do you want to find? Angle B or angle C? It doesn't matter. Which one do you want to find? B or C, Angel? Which one? Yeah, which angle do you want? Angle B or angle C? Angel, which one do you want to find? I know, sorry, man. C it is. So, if we want to find C, then now we've got opposites, right? You guys see that? Once you get the opposites, let's use the easier formula. So, law of sines. Now we're going to use the law of sines because it's the easier one, right? It's opposite. So I'm going to go sine of C over 10 equals sine of 50 over 8.9. Okay, remember we did this yesterday and the day before, just doing our opposites. Sine of an angle over its opposite side equals sine of an angle over its opposite side, right? I need to solve for C, so I'm going to multiply by 10, right? So I'm going to multiply it by 10. And I'm going to use my calculator. 10 times sine of 50, close your parentheses, divided by 8.9, and I get a decimal. Well, that makes sense. What am I going to do with that decimal? I want to find the angle, right? What do I do? Sine inverse is correct. So I'm going to take sine inverse, because I want to find the angle, of my 0.8607, and I get about a 59.4 degrees. So angle C is about 59.4 degrees. All right, awesome. We're almost done. So if angle C is 59.4 degrees, how do I find angle B? How many degrees in a triangle?
180.
180. So to find angle B is pretty easy. I'm just going, okay, angle B is equal to 180 degrees minus the sum of 50 plus 59.4, right? Okay, and I'm going to get that answer. 180. My calculator clear that. I'm just going to go 180. Subtract the sum of 50 plus 59.4, 70.6. Okay, now the last thing I ask is the area. Well, we have an area formula. I'm almost done. Right? Our area formula is 1/2 adjacent times the adjacent times the sine of the angle, right? Okay, well, all depends which angle. So if I go 50, adjacent, adjacent, I can get the area of this, right? What's the area? The area of this? Well, adjacent, adjacent, and I've got my angle, so area is equal to 1/2 10 times 11 times the sine of 50 degrees. All right, now, I'm just going to type that in there, right? And I'll have my answer. 0.5 times 10 times 11 times the sine of 50, and about 42.1 is the area. 42.1, and that's in terms of centimeters squared. All right, that's all I have. So homework today. It's not that many problems. It is page 270. So homework, page 270 and 271. I want you to do 1, 2, 5, and 7. Okay, now some of these you have to draw a triangle to get them to solve. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean before I stop recording. If I go to page 270, hold on, getting there. You'll see in problem number 5 and problem number 5, you just have to draw a triangle and then solve it. They don't use, I would draw a triangle. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I would draw a triangle and then solve it. Okay? Thumbs up. So I didn't give you that many problems, enough, but let's get working on this and let's get it done.